Welcome to Insights InTouch, the podcast where industry insight meets meaningful conversation. Hosted by Kristin Thorne, this series presented by iFraud Foundation explores the real issues facing the property and casualty insurance world. It's the pulse of an industry under pressure and the voices working to protect its future. Stay informed, stay connected, stay in touch. Now, here's your host, Kristin Thorne.
Today on the Insights InTouch podcast, we are joined by Roni Szigeti with FieldFlow. Thank you so much for being here. You're the CEO and founder of this amazing platform. First, I want you to take people through what FieldFlow is.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me on. So FieldFlow is a specialty contracting software where we essentially run everything from cradle to grave, but really the backbone of FieldFlow and how we developed it is to have safety risk mitigation baked throughout every process of a contractor's life cycle. So dispatching to obviously project management, like field management and safety, documentations, inspections, all the way through certifications, license tracking, all that fun stuff. So we really built in a holistic product that helps operationally, but has the foundations of safety, risk mitigation, preservation of capital baked in throughout the processes, just because we feel like at literally every step of a contractor's life cycle, there's some sort of risk associated with that. And if they don't do the right things or take into compliance and regulation into account, then you can obviously get yourself in a lot of trouble.
And I know this extends from your background in construction, right? Subcontractor?
I was, yeah. Well, subcontractor, self-performed GC. We were an 8A contractor, which is a government contractor where they could throw kind of anything at us. So we kind of did everything, ran the gamut from concrete, masonry, scaffolding, environmental demolition, you name it. So, yeah.
Take me through, and then I want to talk specifically about what the platform does because it is so great at attempting to fight fraud and fighting it in some instances. What have you heard from your clients about fraud? What do you see happening in the construction space?
I mean, there's everything from fraudulent workman's comp claims to ghost employees to we see a lot of litigation that goes around time reporting. Definitely on the West Coast, I want to give everybody in California a hug. There's a lot of things that happen where these contractors at any angle can get taken with fraud. And so it's rampant and it hits anywhere from the GL to workman's comp, depending on like geolocation in the country on what they can do. But you just have, if there's a will, there's a way. And so you have, these individuals trying to take advantage of loopholes either in the system or the companies themselves. And yeah, it's rampant.
When you say time, what are they doing exactly?
So they're taking advantage with regulation. And so essentially either they're putting ghost employees and trying to steal time. And then they say they got hurt and they weren't even there on the job, but they had some inside person saying that they were there. And then there's no documentation to back it up. And now you can't even fight against that type of claim. The other one that's happening a lot is that they're saying their time isn't correct. And so they're able to do class actions or PAGA claims, saying that their time wasn't correct, and then they're trying to go for millions and millions of dollars when in certain cases they actually sign off that the time was perfect, but then there's no backup documentation to go and essentially give the contractors and the carriers the ability to fight it because there's not the good backup documentation to do that. So it's pretty incredible what we're seeing right now.
And how does FieldFlow help with that? Because it does.
Yeah, it does. Well, fortunately, going back to the founding story and like how I even got into the trades is that it's funny, and anybody watching this that is an actual contractor, I was mentored by the CSPs, the certified safety professionals in the companies I worked with. And their thing was I was, a young dude just coming out of college, and they're like, we're going to get you before you're corrupted, right? Before the old school project managers and estimators got me, and who didn't care about safety and didn't see the fraud. Like it was about, go and get the job done, estimate it, get the work done. And so they brought me in, and I was mentored by the people that cared about compliance and safety and fraud and all these other things to kind of protect the companies and protect the people, honestly, to keep them, going home safely and to their families. So Founding FieldFlow, I baked all that methodology in there. So to answer your question, like in our just going to time reporting, right? We have geo tracking and geotagging and geofencing so that we can see where the people are really at and that they really are on that job. And then we have the metadata to back that up. If someone's saying, I was here, you're like, "Dude, no, you weren't. You're on your couch at home or you're at the bar. Nice try." We have mandatory forms. So like our clients, they set up mandatory safety forms. So job hazard analysis, pre-job safety instructions, toolbox, site safety inspections, equipment inspections, all of those are baked in where you can make those mandatory. Because what happens is like, project managers, they might be running 6 jobs and then they don't really have the oversight. You might have one safety professional that can't get out there. So what they can do with FieldFlow is say, hey, these are mandatory. And then from wherever they're at in the world, they can see and make sure that the things are getting done. And in fact, the foremen or supervisors on those job sites, they can't do their day's work unless they complete that documentation. What happened in my past, and I saw it personally, and I'm sure people watching this, is that oh, I'm doing my paperwork and really they're catching up on Friday. And God forbid something happened on Tuesday, they have nothing. And now people, they're scrambling to make stuff up. And then literally, especially as it relates to fraud, you're done. Game over. You have no documentation. You have no witness statement. You have nothing to keep on track of that. And so what FieldFlow does is give you real-time insights. You get that mandatory force compliance that things are getting done the right way on the job sites. And then God forbid if things happen, you can pull up your backup documentation, the cover your butt stuff that you need in seconds, and be able to provide that. And that's essentially that's how we got to meet Kristin, right? So
Exactly, exactly. I'm so fascinated. So the geolocation, bring me through that a little bit more. Like how it's attached to their phone. How does that all work?
well, what's cool is that there is so like we talked about it before this, but we have a flow time app where essentially you can download an app and we're geotagging them at the facial recognition and all that stuff. Because again, we go back to ghost employees that say they're on, so we have a lot of technology baked into that piece. The other thing in certain places, especially as it relates to unions and stuff like that, where you can't have them download apps, we've built in a methodology to where they don't have to download an app, where we can deploy essentially a text message that gets to them. They check in from their own phone. They don't have to download an app, but it's really user friendly to where they just check in. And then at that point, we're able to grab their location, where they're at in real time. And then if they're not on the job site, we shoot that back to the company and say, hey, Kristin, Roni's at the bar. He's nowhere near this job site. Or Roni's on his
Could
couch,
never
wherever the
do
case
that,
may be.
Roni.
Yeah. Totally. So it's easy. We had to bake in all these different scenarios because we're, all over the world technically, and then different rules apply. You have union rules, you have state regulations, federal regulations that we have to abide by. And so we had to make sure that we had the technology baked in to keep people one, compliant, but two, have the capabilities and features to know when fraud's happening or when people are trying to take advantage of their company. So
You know what I think about a lot, and you just brought this up, is that when you're trying to develop tech to counteract fraud, you have to think like a fraudster. You have to think of every single thing that people could possibly think of to try to get away with things. And for example, one of the other things I love about FieldFlow, you have to, when you check in at the beginning of the day, you say that you feel well, right? You have no injuries, you feel fine. And then
yep.
what happens at the end of the day?
Yeah, exactly. So when you're signing in and you're doing the job hazard analysis or pre-job safety, it's an explicit line that says, "Hey, I've shown up to my work shift injury free, feeling fine." And essentially, if you have or encounter anything or see anything else with anybody else, here's the rules and of our company that you need to notify anybody, and they have to sign out to start the day. At the end of the day, same rules apply. My time and positions are correct. My meal and break periods are correct. And so whoever's watching this from anywhere, you know that meal period is now becoming a nice contentious item. And I've taken all my breaks according to federal and state regulation. And so they have to sign out any day. The foreman or supervisor cannot close that form out. The employee cannot close that form out until they have verified on that. Now, if they say something's a problem, instant notifications and alarms start flying off so that then the contractor themselves, or if in certain instances, if the insurance company is a part of this, they get notified we got a problem on the job site, and now they can they can go ahead and work through that claim and the incident in real time.
And they have to say at the end of the day that they left injury free, correct? That they, right,
100%. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And I think
Injury
that
free. regulated breaks, time and positions are correct. So they go through this and then sign off. Yep.
Because as many people know who are watching and listening to this, so often people leave and then days later they say that that day they actually had been hurt, but they didn't report it. And so now every day they are leaving, verifying that they feel well and that everything was fine. I also, let's start at the beginning again. Saying that they feel well at the beginning of the day is so important because sometimes people will say that they came to work not feeling so well, knowing they weren't feeling well, and then collapsed and had an injury. And of course, this does happen legitimately. Yes, there are people that show up and they're not feeling, but they need to work. And so of course you understand that. But there are, unfortunately, this fraud has gotten to a place where you have to start having people document it.
100%. Can I share a story?
Yeah.
So there was one here actually. I'm in Colorado. So there's one in Colorado, and it wasn't days, it was 4 months that this employee came to one of our clients and said, I'm hurt. I've been hurt for 4 months. And then so we got subpoenaed by the insurance company and the contractors legal for the metadata. And so to try and fight, they're like, this dude hasn't been hurt. He's been working for 4 months. We were able to pull all the metadata and 74 times where this individual signed out in the morning, I wasn't injured, signed out at the end of the day, I went home injury free, and in the job hazard analysis had all of the proper lifting requirements. He said it was a back issue, right? All the proper lifting requirements. He had already admitted that he didn't do what he was supposed to do. So literally we had all this documentation that we were presented. It took less than an hour for us to present this to legal counsel. That dude and his attorney were gone. Like they had no grounds at all. And so that, I mean, that was going to be, I think, like a $2 million set aside or something ridiculous. And so him and his attorneys took a hike, which is huge to be able to have that. Fortunately, the contractor did the right things. They were using FieldFlow the perfect way, but they had all of the backup to be like, dude, get out of here. This is completely fraud.
And how does that make you feel? Like you've been in this business, yes, I'm getting a little personal, a little in there. Like, how does that make you feel that you were able to help prevent this from happening?
Yeah, I mean, it feels amazing. Well, one, speaking of personal, I knew actually I just being in Colorado and in the contracting world, I actually knew the person that was trying to commit the fraud. So it made
Really?
me, oh yeah, I know exactly who he was.
Well, that's a small world.
Very small. So I knew once, names come over and I knew it and I was, and part of my life, I knew he was a scumbag. So I was very happy to know that that guy was one, not going to try that again. Hopefully, one, it was on record that he was trying to try to play the fraud game. So yeah, I felt great. Not to mention I knew the contractor very well, their clients, and I felt amazing for them that they were able to get rid of this headache real fast.
Yeah,
Um,
because these claims can mean a death for a company, certainly small contractors.
100%. And
Yeah.
we have some that got hit, and that's why they've come to FieldFlow, but we have some in California that these are family-owned businesses. They've built them up for all these years, and then to have some person who is just trying to go out and make a dollar literally take down all the work that their grandparents, right? These are generational companies where they've done so much work and tried to do right by their employees and employed, tens to hundreds of people to give them jobs. And that one person can literally ruin it for everybody and take them down. That's the sad part. And then obviously with insurance getting so expensive, like now all of a sudden, if somehow they don't have the backup documentation and now their insurance goes out the roof, now it's too expensive to even be a contractor. So this generational companies where on my LinkedIn, I see these pictures of like grandpa, great grandpa, standing in front of this wood warehouse that they've been working on it. That's gone because of one person trying to get one over on the company and the insurance company.
It's so wrong.
It's
I want you to
crazy.
bring us through this new addition to FieldFlow, what you have going now, because this is super cool.
Yeah, yeah. So we flow time, which is actually we came out with that one based on the fact that now what's happening is like, okay, now we need to put all of the time tracking in some of the employees' hands. And again, this is geographically like where you can and can't do this. But at this point, what we're doing is baking in all of that facial recognition, geotagging. We actually have other features in there where they can get their schedules and dispatching. And then when they go to clock in, it tracks all their certs, like safety certifications, licenses, and all that inside of this app. And when they go to clock in a job, so let's say I go to Kristen's, concrete project or demolition project, it knows what certs I'm supposed to have for your project that I'm going to start work on. And when I go press, start my day, one, facial recognition, two, geotagging and geofencing, and then three, it does a check on my certifications, licenses, and trainings to make sure that I have what I need to have to be on your job site. If I don't, it flags it. It says, nice try, you need to get an override. And it sends it back to the office saying, hey, Roni's trying to be on a project he has no business being on based on the certs, licenses, and trainings that are required to be on that job site. So it's cool. Just another layer that we're trying to bake in. One, to make sure that you're putting the right people in the right job and the right person's supposed to be there. But also, obviously, there's a huge cover your butt component from the fraud perspective of like, are they really there? Did they really do the work that they were supposed to do today? So yeah, it's been a fun project we've been working on for a year. So
Aren't you also trying to develop a way to take your phone and view an active site? I don't know if you're ready to talk about this yet, but I know you're working on it.
I'll talk about it. So we're baking in the intelligence, and I could actually flip on my screen and show you it's done. We're just
Okay.
training and training. But what it is that for job hazard analysis, that you can essentially, the foreman or supervisor or safety manager can flip on the phone and essentially walk through the recording and talk while you're showing, the flow bot, we'll call it the flow bot, the site. And so the flow bot is then, reading what's going on, watching your extra set of eyes, and then listening to your tasks that you're talking about. And then in our JHA, it then builds out all the task hazards controls according to OSHA regulation, your local, state regulation, depending on the type of work. And then again, if I didn't call out a big hole that's showing in the video, it's going to say, hey, Roan, you didn't talk about that big hole. You need to have hole coverings in place. Just a random piece of like that technology, but it's literally your extra set of eyes on that.
And how can that help prevent fraud?
Well, for one, is someone saying there wasn't a rung on that scaffolding, right? Now you have the video and the backup documentation to be like, no, 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 no. One, we did have the rung. You can watch the video. Two, we said that you're supposed to put the hole coverings in place and all of these things that like everything's documented now, right? And so off of that video, I didn't even talk about it, but off that video, it's actually keeping the video and snapping photos. And what happens with that document, and going back to the initial, is that JHA has to be signed off of by everybody on site, or otherwise they can't do their day. So it's forced compliance going back to that. So every employee that's on that job site has to sign off that they've read and understood the instructions that they've been given. And all of this is baked in right into that form that they can change into whatever language that they want. By the way, so we have if you speak Polish and I speak Hungarian, whatever the case may be, or Spanish,
Oh, you
I
have
translate
everything.
it, everything. I have 156 languages or 100, maybe
It's a
32. Sorry.
lot.
It's a lot. It's a
It's a lot.
lot.
You got them
So
covered, I think.
we got them covered. Yeah. So it's fun so that they have to kind of review and understand all the safety instructions that have been given. And then if they try to say, hey, I didn't know, you're
Yeah.
like, wait, what do you mean you didn't? You signed off that you knew. On top of it, we put it in your own language, so you can't play the knowledge verification or the language verification piece, because that was also another thing, is that like by OSHA, they have to understand what you gave them, the safety instructions. So yeah, that form has been get out of jail free card for a few clients. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, because you're holding on to it. So you're able to take it to attorneys and say, look, we took this video or this picture at this time. You can see that the safety apparatus is firmly in place, and so you can use it that way. Let's talk broadly, because I know you're a tech guy, and I know tech. Let's talk some tech. So take me through, broadly speaking, AI now, tech, how you see it transforming the industry, particularly in this space, like in the protecting of the contractor space.
Yeah, this is the last 6 months has been fun. I mean, obviously there's been people working on a lot of things. What's been really fun is that you can take these different technologies and bake them together to build this universal tech stack to protect the contractor and the insureds as a whole. Like what you're seeing, obviously what we're working on with like the power of AI. And again, you need a human in the loop, but the power of AI to help level everybody up, right, exponentially is incredible. And the fact that we can train it to be conscious of contractor, of fraud, of these things that to look around the corner when things are about to happen. I'll use an example of like our friends over at Tradesman, our partner there, is that they've take the view is that like we'll use this as a force multiplier, right? We're going to use the FieldFlow platform on all of our contractors. We're going to have cameras and things in all of the vehicles to make sure that we're getting real line of sight of like because auto accidents happen and equipment accidents happen too. So how do we bring all of this technology together to create one super force to essentially keep our people safe, but obviously be in the know to prevent the fraud that could potentially happen when they're saying that I didn't see this, I didn't know that this was coming, or no one told me, right? Or they're just blatantly lying and saying, I got hurt and I was never even on that job site. And so using technology as a force multiplier, and with the AI baked in, it can give not only the contractor all the line of sight of when people are doing bad things, but also the insurance company or the providers, the carriers, knowing that, hey, we need to go help out our contractors because they're about to put themselves in a bad situation. I think one technology that's really helping out with fraud is Dashly. I don't know if you've heard of Dashly.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Those
Trying
guys
to
are
get him on here.
Are you? Yeah, Dennis,
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
guy. But essentially, like the technology that they're baking in, where they can go ahead and triangulate where fraudsters are, right? And essentially baking that in and just building this holistic kind of flywheel of like, we know what people are trying to do. We think we know what people are trying to do. How can we bake in these technologies that are user friendly, easy to use, not going to be a huge strain on the contractor themselves, but essentially going to level them up so that they can operationally be better, but also keep people safe. No one fraud's about to happen, and then preserve capital and obviously mitigate risk. I mean, does that make sense?
Great. Absolutely. Where do
Awesome.
you see field flow going? Where's the future of field flow?
Good question. I
Yeah.
what we want it to be, especially, being on the iFraud podcast, is we want all of our people to be able to, one, run their companies so efficiently, right? So like the fun thing of like, and I never even would have thought that FieldFlow would have ended up in this place, but keep people and these companies running operationally so efficient that they can do everything in one place and not have such a disparate tech stack, and because it's just they're not built for that. But make sure that we bake in, because I feel like the best contractors, the most profitable contractors, are the one that have safety and compliance in mind at every step of the way. That's how I was trained. That's my mentors, and that's where it is. And so if you do that, your profitability comes up, and we have more contractors in place. And then the essential is tying that back into the carrier side, because what I'm seeing in the value add for like these going to tradesmen and what they're doing is that to provide real value as a carrier and really to preserve capital is being that liaison and that mentor to those contractors that you're insuring, to make sure that we have this seamless integration so that we can help you, you can help us, and that we're all on one team, making sure people are safe, and then also making sure that we go ahead and get after these fraudsters to make sure that they know that they can't do this again. There's people and systems in place that aren't going to let this happen, and that we're going to innovate to make sure that we continually try to stay ahead of that game. And so that, at the end of the day, people can be insured, you have good contractors out there, and that we've, as FieldFlow, are providing a software to kind of make that whole streamlined motion between contractor to carrier.
It really is an amazing platform. It has so many, we only got into a little bit of it. I mean, it just does so much. Even, tracking the certifications is so valuable, everything about it. So, Roni Szigeti, thank you so much for being with us here today with FieldFlow. It was a lot of fun chatting.
Had so much fun. Thanks for having me on.
All right.